category they've been placed.
Hello and welcome. This is the official media launch for the National Awards. My name is Rihani Isidore, and I will be moderating with the members, a few members of the National Awards Committee, beginning with Madam Chair, Mrs. Mauricia Thomas Francis. She is joined by two of her committee members, Ms. Sharon Ephraim, and of course, Ms. Malaika Compton. Ladies, committee members, good day to you.
Good day, Rihani.
So, if you're watching this program, that means it's that time of year again. The National Awards is on the horizon. It is scheduled as per normal during the month of February when we celebrate independence. And if you're viewing this program, that means it's just about time to begin getting those forms and filling them out and nominating the St. Lucians you believe are worthy and deserving of national recognition. So I want to pose my first question to Madam Chair. How was National Awards or the investiture of 2023? I know you and your committee did put in a lot of hours, did a lot of work, combed through a lot of applications, and of course, leading up to the actual ceremony. How was it for you?
Yes, we had a good season last year. We did the usual PR, went into the communities and sensitized the public on the need to submit nominations. And we did get a very decent number of applications last year, which we adjudicated on and as usual selected the most deserving, because as you would appreciate, we have quotas and sometimes we get applications more than the quota that has been allocated, but we select the best. So we did have a very successful season, I would say. The investiture went very smoothly at Government House, and we recognized and celebrated all the St. Lucians who were deserving of the recognition.
I suspect it's a good thing to note that the volume of applications were, like you said, very decent, yes, very significant.
Absolutely.
So it suggests to me, perhaps it might suggest to the committee that St. Lucia, as a country, look forward to nominating some of their colleagues and fellow countrymen. So if we were to discuss, for example, the nomination process, Malaika, where would the average person, if they wanted to nominate someone, where would they go to get their hands on some of these nomination forms?
Okay, so they could go to our accountant general offices, to the various constituency councils, to the service clubs, through their churches. We also have the Office of the Prime Minister. They could also get some of those forms there.
All right, and so that's wide availability throughout the length and breadth of St. Lucia. Is there any particular reason, Sharon, that well, first of all, are those are those forms for sale?
Oh no, not at all. They are actually free. That is why we are asking members of the public to be able to get the forms. Actually, they are online, and you don't have to actually pay to get it. Okay. And you can also go to the various entities, like Malaika said a while ago, to get those forms, such as the libraries, the post offices, the sub-post offices, and constituency councils, as well as the Office of the Prime Minister. So everyone can go and collect those forms and get their nominations in, so that persons will be able to, we will look at the forms and see persons who are eligible to be able to be nominated
Madam Chair,
accepted.
Thank you for that response there.
Yes.
Madam Chair, to the person, family, household who may be watching this program and an idea on an individual, potential nominee pops up in their mind, and then they're thinking, wow, National Awards, investiture, so much prestige. I want to nominate so-and-so, but I don't know if they're, quote-unquote, worthy of that kind of a claim. What would you say to that sort of perplexity in the minds of an average person? Who should get nominated?
Actually, every day we come across persons in the various communities who go over and above the call of duty to serve. Whether we are talking about service to country, whether we are talking about contribution to the arts, to science, to literature. We're talking about persons, conducting acts of bravery, persons who have given long and meritorious service in the public service, any of those persons who have gone over and above the call of duty and stand out should be nominated. We do know that we have a number of unsung heroes in St. Lucia. A lot of times I meet people and they say to me, well, these persons that you all are giving awards to, I know of so many other people who do more than them in the communities. And I say to them, if you know of them, why don't you submit a nomination form? So this year I'm expecting to get someone. Every year we get increase in numbers. That is why this bit of PR is so very important. We do have significant numbers of unsung heroes out there, and we are looking forward to the nomination of those persons.
Malika, so as Madam Chair just pointed out, so many people may be considered for applying and so on. Can an applicant who perhaps didn't make it all the way last year or the years before, can they reapply this year, for example?
Yes, they can.
So it's not limited?
No, not at all.
How many times would you say?
As many times as possible.
which leads me to you, Sharon. What exactly does the committee look for what is the nomination criteria?
It is important that members submit their nominations and justify the person that they submit. They need to let us know so that we can actually see why do you think that persons should be selected in the nomination process. So they need to we're looking at a statement of service rendered must be provided to reflect full details of national interests performed by the nominee, and in their opinion, they need the quality of that performance. They also need to look at the fact, all facts must be stated clearly and concisely. State whether the service was performed in or out of St. Lucia, and whether the nominee has ever been rewarded or recognized for any of them previously.
Madam Chair, this poses two questions. Does a nominee need to reside in St. Lucia
Actually,
at the time of the nomination process?
Actually, no. The scheme caters for St. Lucians who reside here, as well as St. Lucian nationals who reside in the diaspora. Okay. However, we do have a category, the St. Lucia Cross, where we do not only recognize nationals. In that category, the quota is 3. 2 nationals and 1 non-national in an honorary capacity. But by and large, it's for St. Lucian nationals resident here or in the diaspora.
I know part of the criteria is for national service or some sort of standout of national acclaim, but if, for example, I know of a resident or someone who has done good work in a community, does that person still qualify?
Yes, they do qualify for an award.
So,
excuse me, I think at this point in time, perhaps I will ask my colleague to just speak of the various categories of awards, the classes, the criteria, and what have you, so that could give the public a sense of what it is we are talking about.
Okay, so we have the St. Lucia Cross Gold. It's for a person who has rendered distinguished and outstanding service of national importance to St. Lucia. We have the St. Lucia Medal of Honor, and we give it in 2 classes, gold and silver. A person who has rendered eminent service of national importance to St. Lucia or has performed an outstanding brave or humane act to a national St. Lucia, demonstrating conspicuous courage in circumstances of extreme peril. We have the silver, so that was the gold for the St. Lucian Medal of Honor. A person who has rendered eminent service of national importance to St. Lucia, only for acts of bravery in hazardous circumstance. We have the St. Lucia Medal of Merit, also in gold and silver. A person who has performed long and meritorious services in the arts, literature, sciences, or other such fields in St. Lucia. We have the St. Lucia L'Épitor Medal, This is in 3 classes: gold, silver, and bronze. Persons who have performed long and meritorious services to St. Lucia, tending to promote loyal public service, national welfare, or to inculcate and strengthen community spirit. So the award, the person you just spoke about, could be considered for this award.
So yeah, these categories seem very broad and all encompassing. Sharon, so I go to my library, constituency office, I get a form, but I notice the committee would like to see a note or a statement justifying their reasons for the nomination. What if I'm not capable of putting together that statement? Is it okay? Will I get disqualified if I get help? Someone to draft it for me, write it for me? Is that okay?
Well,
Sharon?
it's okay for someone to draft it for them if they can, or they can go and get someone who is capable enough of doing it for them. But I can tell you, any nomination form that is submitted without the statement of service rendered will not be considered.
Okay.
And I also want to note that simply providing a curriculum vitae is not sufficient. We need the justification as to why you think this person should be recognized.
So, Madam Chair, this statement basically explains what exactly concerning the nominee?
Yeah, well, quite apart from that, I would like to add that the nomination form requires that you complete it in its entirety.
Okay.
So there's a section where you speak of who you're nominating, the person's date of birth, address, contact number, email address. There is a section where you are required to state which category that you are nominating the person for. Now, I want to speak about this carefully. Yeah. Some persons make the mistake and they nominate an individual for more than one category. Oh. And then it becomes a problem for the committee, so we have to disqualify. Only one category can be selected. Okay. So that must be there. The other section of the form speaks to who is nominating, the address of the person who is nominating, and the contact number for that person who is nominating. Also, there is a section which requires compulsorily as well that a statement is placed as to whether the person has ever received an award under the Order of St. Lucia before.
How might that affect that nomination or that application? If an individual is a previous recipient?
If the person is a previous recipient, then we have to go and find out whether the person has received a similar award to what the person is being nominated for. We wouldn't honor the person twice for the same category.
I see.
So we need to that needs to be stated quite categorically. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Investiture 2023, a look back. Sitting there as a committee, observing these St. Lucians, proud St. Lucians, getting their medals from the Governor General and other special guests. How does that make you feel?
Very proud.
Madam Chair?
Elated, proud. Mm-hmm. These awards don't just serve the purpose of ensuring due recognition is given to persons who deserve, but also to act as motivation and inspiration for other persons in the community, especially our youth, so that they can go over and above the call of duty to excel, to shine, such that they too can be so honored. Right. So it's always a very, very proud moment for us, and I think it's also a very proud moment for all St. Lucians, as well as, of course, the recipients and their families.
All right, and before we proceed into our next segment, we'll talk about when the nomination period actually opens. We'll discuss the composition of the committee and, of course, the categories of the nomination forms. So stay with us. We'll be back in just a few moments.
The Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries, Food Security and Rural Development is placing heavy emphasis on the concept of food security. It's our prosperity, our future. The enhancement of the efficiency of production, distribution, supply chain in the fruit and vegetable sector project, more commonly known as the 7 Crops Project, is intended to increase local production of all selected crops and decrease our food import bill through the diversification of the agricultural sector and increased production of the targeted crops. Among the provisions are subsidized input sales, seedling distribution, introduction of new varieties, introduction to new technology, erection of weather stations, and capacity building. For more on the 7 Crops project, contact the project coordinator at 468-8122.
Welcome back. This is the official media launch for the National Award/Investiture for 2024. I'm joined by the committee members, which includes the chair, Mauricia Thomas Francis, Sharon Ephraim, and of course Malaika Compton. And we're about to delve a little deeper into the whole nomination process, what categories of individuals might qualify. So if I were, for example, a teacher or perhaps even a police officer, do I go through, what's the nomination process like for those categories,
okay, so
for those individuals?
For the public servants, there's the Public Service Commission who will submit those nominations. For the police officers, we have the St. Lucia National Service Cross and the St. Lucia National Service Medal. So I'll just give you an overview. For the National Service Cross, it may be awarded to an officer of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, not below the rank of Deputy Fire Chief, or an officer of the Prison Service, not below the rank of Deputy Chief Prisons Officer. For the St. Lucia National Service Medal, National Service Medal may be awarded for outstanding and meritorious service to members of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, the St. Lucia Fire Service, the St. Lucian Prison Service, and commissioned officers of a cadet corps.
Those are, and when it comes to nominations of quote-unquote outside of the public service, ordinary citizens, what channel does that take in terms of who makes that decision? Sharon?
Well, it's actually the normal channel where they have to fill out the forms. Again, we will say that the forms can be submitted online at memam.louis@govt.lc. So that's imam.louis@govt.lc.
I think that's the secretary, right?
Yes, that is the secretary of our committee. All nominations must be made on the prescribed form, and all submissions must provide justification for the award proposed and must bear the name and signature of the individual making the submission. Both the name and signature must be legible. Nomination forms must be completed in the entirety, and I'm stressing on that because we have received forms in the past that have no signature. The person submitting the form, the name is not there, and the signature is not there as well. So we have no choice but to disqualify that person because the form was not being filled in its entirety.
So
we need to remember also that we have a deadline to submit those forms. After the deadline, those forms will not be accepted. So our deadline to submit nomination forms is the 8th of December, 2023.
So persons who may have submitted after the 8th, will those forms be quote-unquote rolled over? Or what happens? Or would the individual have to reapply for 2024, for 2025, for example?
Well, the individuals will have to reapply because they did not meet the deadline.
Okay.
And that is why we come out and we stress that they need to be able to start from now to be able to submit those forms. We find sometimes St. Lucians, both in St. Lucia and abroad in the diaspora, they wait until the last minute to send those forms in. But if the forms are being sent early enough, the committee can start going through the forms and giving us enough time to make sure we do our due diligence on the forms as well. And at least when the deadline comes, we know we have enough forms, persons given the opportunity to submit early so that they will not have to go beyond the deadline, so that we do not want to not consider the forms that we receive. We want to make sure that all forms we receive, it will be considered as long as they reach before the deadline date. So we are appealing to members of the public to submit those forms as early as possible
before that
as
deadline.
of now.
And Madam Chair, to the St. Lucians watching, are they looking at the judge, jury, and executioners, the persons who will ultimately decide whether or not a nominee will travel up to Government House and get their medal?
Thanks. I'm glad you're asking this question. Our committee comprises of 7 members. Myself as chair, as you well know, and we have the chairperson of the Public and Teaching Service Commission, who is Mr. Cyrus Reynolds, who is also representing that body. We also have the Commissioner of Police on the committee, Mrs. Cursita Descat-Pelius, Mr. King.
Yeah.
Which King is that?
Mr. Wilbert King. He's also a member of the Public Service Commission, but he's serving the committee in a different capacity. So he's a member of the committee as well. We do have Ms. Compton, who's representing the opposition on the committee, and we do have Ms. Sharon Ephraim representing the government side. So there is balance. And of course, last but not least, we have Madam Secretary, Ms. Imam Louis, who is supporting us, and she's all part of the process. So when we meet, we receive the nomination forms after the 8th of December. Then we will sit and review, adjudicate, and decide which persons need to be awarded. And the next stage of the process is for us to make recommendations to the Prime Minister. The buck does not stop with us. We make recommendations to the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister may accept, or he may query. In most cases, he accepts because he knows that we have a cadre of professionals, of committed people, of people of integrity, people who are objective.
And a very balanced committee as well.
And a very balanced committee. So a lot of the time, we haven't had too many instances where the Prime Minister has not accepted our recommendations.
You mentioned the Prime Minister. Is the Governor General, or does the Governor General play any role in all of this?
I was coming to that. So from the Prime Minister would be submitting the nominations, or the recommendations rather, to the Governor General, so that the Governor General can consider and start making the preparations for honoring those awardees. The next stage of the process is that on Independence Day, at the usual uniform units rally, an announcement is made as to who are the winners of the national awards. So the announcement is made there, and subsequent to that, about 2 weeks after independence, then the investiture takes place, where we celebrate and honor those persons, most times at Government House.
I'll stay with you, Madam Chair. The investiture ceremony comes and goes. The names go into a book of all of those. What happens to those individuals? What kind of record keeping is done? Do they just collect their award, and then next day is forgotten about? What happens then?
No, these are very prestigious awards.
Yes.
The persons who receive the honor, they can wear the pins and the medals to official government functions. They get invited to official functions. For example, the St. Lucia Cross, there's the opportunity for one to be referred to as honorable. So the title of honorable is attached to that important award.
And that's just for the St. Lucia
Just for the St. Lucia Cross. The other awards, they can add the designation behind their names, and that goes as a special recognition for them as well.
Okay. But
and quite apart from that, the fact that we publicize and the nation and the world knows that they've been honored, I think that in and of itself is good enough, it's prestigious.
Volumes, last year volume significant.
Yes.
This year, I suspect you may very well expect a similar, if not more. 7 members. Malika, how does 7 people go through that many applications in time? Especially during Christmas time. It's December, the deadline is the 8th. So after the 8th, that's when you actually begin the deliberation process. How do you guys manage all of that?
We're just a committed set of persons, so we get it done.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And once a nominee, I remember you mentioned, Madam Chair, that the Governor General ultimately, after receiving the recommendations from the Prime Minister, there's an announcement on Independence Day. But is there any earlier notice to the actual nominees?
Well, of course, once the Governor General accepts the recommendations of the Prime Minister, the Secretary to the Governor General will start making calls to let the winners know that they have been selected.
Must they take an oath of secrecy?
Yes, absolutely, because they're supposed to wait until until the announcement is made.
Yeah.
But naturally, you must tell them, because at the end of the day, they have to prepare for the investiture, so they have to be notified.
Speaking of secrecy, Sharon, let me ask you: once a person has been nominated, yes, or I should let me rephrase my question. If I wanted to nominate someone anonymously, can I do so?
Well, we, the committee, think it is the best way to do it. It's like almost coming like a surprise for that individual that you're nominating. But sometimes you find that you do not have enough information that you would want on that person. If you cannot find persons out there to give you more information on the person, then you can actually inform the person, and the person can give you a little more background information about them. But it would be best if it's kept away from the person, so that the person can be more surprised in knowing that they were nominated and accepted for that matter.
So, Malika, it will just be the committee who would know who nominated who, basically.
Yes.
Yeah? And so the nominee will be none the wiser until, of course, maybe if their nomination is actually successful.
Yes.
Okay. So, Madam Chair, I think Sharon already alluded to it. When does the nomination period open, and when does it end?
Yes, I just want to advise the public that nominations open tomorrow, 10th of October, 2023. And as she alluded, the deadline is the 8th of December. So I think we are given enough time, ample time. So I'm inviting the public, inviting citizens to get busy, collect the forms, and start preparing nomination forms to submit to us so they can reach us within the deadline.
All right.
I just want to add to what my colleague just mentioned about the surprise element. It is very important for the surprise element to feature in the submission of nominations. Reason being, people don't feel good when they know they've been nominated and they have not won. So I believe it is important that the secrecy aspect of it is maintained as much as possible, such that if there is not a winning submission, then nobody has to feel bad that they did not.
That's correct.
Because then what happens is people start to compare. But hold on, I've done a lot more than this person, but how come this person got the award and I didn't get it? It creates issues in the community that is not necessary. And of course, the persons who would complain about that may not even know what was written down, because the committee cannot go and add and subtract to a nomination form. We accept what is before us, we adjudicate on what is before us, and make a determination in terms of what is before us.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and members of the National Awards Committee. We hope and trust that this information, or the information presented here today, will be helpful with you and filling out your applications or your nomination forms for the National Awards investiture next year. The nomination period is officially open as of October 10th. The deadline will be the 8th of December. Get your nomination forms, fill them out completely, thoroughly, for deliberation by the committee. Thank you all for tuning in to this official media launch for the National Awards 2024. Stay tuned.